Shalom, shalom, family, and aloha from Maui, Hawaii. This is your Sistah ChaYAH. I pray that you all are well, and welcome to the Melchizedek Network, the network that represents for the King of Kings. Family, I just want to share something beautiful with you. I've been doing a little review of the scriptures this morning, and I wanted to share with you my thoughts because I came across a very edifying video that I'm going to share with you all after I get done with this reading. So stick around for the video that's going to come. It's from Brother Shahid Bolson over at Middle Nation on YouTube. It's just really powerful, the things that he's saying. And it really drew a good picture of spiritual Stockholm syndrome. That's right. A lot of people have it, and many don't even know. But listen to what I bring out in Apostle John's teachings. That's right. I'm going to read a little bit in Revelation 13. And I'm actually coming out of the book, Mark of America, Seat of the Beast, Apostle John's. That's right. New Testament, Revelation Unfolded. For those that have the book, and for those that don't, man, you need to really consider adding this to your scriptural library. So this is a powerful reading right here, and it coincides with what Brother Shahid brought out in his video message, really explaining this oppression that we all are living in and the brainwashing and programming that is taking place. But check this out, family, as I read these Melchizedek words of the day. Revelation 13 and 13. And he does great wonders. That's right. So that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of the beast. What does that mean? Let's get more understanding. Mortals began to discover the knowledge and understanding. You see that? Fire come down from heaven. Mortals begin to discover the knowledge and understanding of some of the mysteries of God. Hallelujah. The American lifestyle, the other beast, and the he referred to in this verse, influence the scientific and technological advancements needed to satisfy the appetites of its belly. For thousands of years, the greatest minds on earth could not decipher the mysteries and riddles of scientific observations, which were necessary to control the powers of nature for the benefit of mortal man. The secrets of kinetic energy, theorized and speculated on by the great minds of science, were kept hidden away. That's right. Unable to utilize what they understood. The world advanced very little from the time of the ancient Egyptians until the time of the isolated colonies of the American Pilgrims. The extraordinary power of electricity was kept hidden from the very foundations of the world so that humankind would not discover its potential and use it inappropriately. Isn't that profound, brothers and sisters? The ancient prophets knew of this great power, yet none of them mentioned it to its contemporary. Yet none of them mentioned it to his contemporaries. Guarding this incredible mystery that is a small but important portion of the power of a God. They knew that when the earth was approaching its last days of exercising universal free agency and democracy, it would be safe to allow the devil to have power over his own dominion, thus permitting the use of this knowledge. Remember, representing fire. So when you see that in the scriptures, so he could experience the effects of this power when used improperly. Not one ancient prophet who received knowledge of the latter days prophesied anything but great wickedness upon the earth. So sad. They saw the computers, the medical advancements, and the technological cornucopia of ease and wealth given to those who would experience the effects of this fire from heaven. Remember, we saw that earlier, representing that knowledge, hidden knowledge, but they prophesied of nothing but wickedness. As the world began to lust more and more after the ease and comforts that this fire provided them, the great furnace of the bottomless pit, the great furnace of the bottomless pit was stoked and fueled. Nature's power was brittled, and the beast was given the ability by the dragon to hold the reins in his hands, taking the horse and its rider anywhere he so desired. Talking about us, brothers and sisters. Everything in the word of the Most High is spiritual. It's metaphorical. It's symbolic, brothers and sisters. Yes, we all have that bottomless pit within us that causes us to desire more and more, seek for more things, more knowledge. Yes. Revelation 13 and 14 says, "And them that dwell on the earth are deceived by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, by saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live." Let's get more understanding, brothers and sisters. As technology began to provide immediate pleasures and satisfaction to humankind, faith in an unseen God and any hope of an afterlife became less and less important to them that dwell on the earth. That would be us. New advancements and apparent miracles were introduced with each new generation. In a brief amount of time, compared to the thousands of years that humans existed without the miracles of science and technology, mortals have gained power to travel hundreds of miles per hour through the sky and to entertain themselves with these wonderful miracles. Sounds like television, internet, radio, all kind of miracles, brothers and sisters. These miracles provide large amounts of leisure time, and instead of working, I'm going to say this again, and instead of working as expected by their creator, which also represents Genesis 3 and 19. What does it say? "In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it was thou taken." That's right, talking about us. "For dust thou art, and unto dust shall you return." That's right. We're supposed to be working by the sweat of our brow, brothers and sisters, during our duration on this earth. That's right. Until we leave, we got to be productive. That's what the Most High put us here for. Check this out. The people of the earth search for ways to be free from all labor. That easiness of life. They just want to sit behind YouTube, collect checks, get donations, Venmos, PayPals, and all, any way we can figure out how to be free from all labor. Continuing. Them, who is that? Us, so deceived, live by the sweat of the faces of the poor. Causing them to grind at the will of an economy that feeds the wants and needs of the deceived. Yeah, because everybody always trying to get other people to work for them or a way they can make money, especially the rich. They've really figured this out. Look at that. Grinding the faces of the poor, as prophesied, is the result of those who believe that their individual and family goals of financial wealth and independence are more important than another's. The other beasts that came out of the earth like a lamb opened up and developed a land where these miracles could be seen. That's right, could be seen, sight of the beast, and believed. Let's get understanding. Millions of people around the world were deceived into believing that the American dream was equally attainable for all. Many people believe that then, and they believe it now. Man, that's deep, brothers and sisters. I'm reading you the Holy Scriptures and the teachings of Apostle John. A lot of people don't know there's a New Testament with John's teachings, breaking down those metaphors and those symbolic things that John spoke of in the book of Revelation, because he's seen the whole world from the beginning to the end. Look at that. Millions of people around the world were deceived into believing that the American dream was equally attainable for all. Prophetically, the Statue of Liberty, a figurative representation of the image of the beast, which is also a graven image, thou shalt not have any graven image, was constructed and erected in order to entice the deceived to sit upon the beast, while the woman stands upon the sea, welcoming the world to come into her bed and enjoy her fornication. That's right. That's what Revelation 17, 1 through 5 is talking about, brothers and sisters. Come on over here and to America. You can experience the American dream. Come be an American idol. That's right, brothers and sisters. Continuing, the giant image, a woman clothed in a robe holds a torch in her right hand, giving the appearance of righteousness, offering enlightenment. There's that fire come down from heaven, that enlightenment to the world, and is profoundly represented by the 7 heads or 7 rays, which also represent the 7 continents of the world, brothers and sisters, jutting from her crown. The chains on her feet by which she was bound have been unlocked, giving her power to do the miracles in the sight of the beast. Yes, you see this beautiful poetry, brothers and sisters? In her left hand, she holds a book. And what does that book do? It's symbolizing a diary of her unrighteous works. Yeah, that's what her left hand represents, which she has accomplished and recorded therein. What is written upon the book she holds is the question. Check this out. Chiseled in Roman numerals in honor of the first beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live, the Roman Empire, is celebrated and worshiped. It says, is the celebrated and worshiped. Check this out. Holy day, or should we say holiday, because the world believes it's a holy day and they celebrate this holiday. But we know the truth. July 4th, 1776. This is the celebrated day this other beast rose out of the earth with two horns like a lamb. You see that? We're talking about America, brothers and sisters. Now you're seeing how Apostle John was speaking in metaphor. That's right. Symbolism, allegory. Yes, all the ancient prophets did. It says, deceiving them. What? Deceiving them that dwell upon the earth by saying, bring us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, and we will face them toward the grinding wheel that feeds the dragon and has given us this great power. That's right. This is sounding like the setup of the have and the have-nots. That's right. Come on over here and work for us. You can have the piece of the American dream, but it's an illusion, brothers and sisters. Check this out. The image of the beast is the illusory belief. That's right. It's an illusion that all peoples of the earth have the ability to achieve a life of freedom from work, oppression, and sadness under the current economic policies and laws of the United States form of democracy. To support the lifestyle of one rich person, at least 99 poor people are needed to fulfill their selfish dream. That's right, the American dream hasn't worked for everyone, just that 1%. Food needs to be picked, garbage needs to be removed, hotels need to be staffed, and raw materials need to be produced and turned into the products that the rich use to live their desired standard of living. That's right. They got to keep up with that image of the beast, that standard of living. The deceived of the earth are convinced that if they are not worshiped, or if they are not worshiping the image, which is that living this standard of living, then they have not arrived and they are not successful. Therefore, they are not happy. Thus, these are they who are deceived. Hallelujah. Brothers and sisters, Apostle John was amazing with the words. I call it spiritual poetry. And I wanted to read you that and share those words from the Holy Scriptures, because as you listen to this video by Brother Shahid Bolson with Middle Nation on YouTube, man, you're going to be like, we have all been deceived. Yes. And he says it so eloquently and candid as to the programming that has taken place, especially in the Americas, or as I like to call it, the Americanas. So take a listen to this video from our brother Shahid Bolson, and brothers and sisters, share it with others, because this is the type of knowledge that edifies and opens the eyes of people. And many people need to listen to this and look in the mirror. And when you get done looking in the mirror, make some changes to your life. Get in these scriptures. It is truly time for deliverance, brothers and sisters. We've all been oppressed and we've all been deceived. But guess what? There is true liberation in the gospel of the Most High if we apply it to our lives by doing unto others what we would have them do unto us, and even loving our neighbor, which is all people. I'm your Sistah ChaYAH. I love you, and I pray that you enjoy this video that I am sharing, and I pray that those words blessed you as well. Signing off with a mahalo from Maui, Hawaii. Shalom and enjoy.
Really, the West is a cult. I mean, I've said it before. The West, America, is a cult. Now, I'm not being hyperbolic. This is why Americans specifically are immediately identifiable, no matter where they are. Why they really come across as strange and brainwashed to everyone else in the world if they travel, If you interact with an American, you genuinely feel like you're talking to someone who just has a really insular frame of reference, a fabricated sense of reality, a sense of reality that only makes sense within the American cult compound. It's always a non-interaction interaction, you know what I mean? Like no actual communication takes place in those interactions. It's like they have a stencil, like they're looking through a stencil, they're looking through a filter, and everything that comes from them adheres to that stencil, and nothing that does not adhere to that stencil can reach them. That's programming. That's what that is. That's brainwashing, A cult is never going to tell you that they're brainwashing you. They won't call their indoctrination programming. They'll call it deprogramming, They'll call it deprogramming. A cult will tell you that everything that you've ever been taught, everything that you have ever felt, everything that you have ever known, your whole view of reality, all this time has been satanic. And we, here in the cult, we will dismantle all the lies and we will guide you to the ultimate truth. That's how they'll put it. Well, that's the West. That's so-called liberalism. And what they want to deprogram is your fitrah, your innate human nature. And it's escalatory. Again, just like a cult, it's escalatory. You know how these sorts of, I won't name any, but these weird sort of insular, secretive cults that exist. They have this sort of tiered system of revealing so-called higher and deeper truths. It's when they let you know what the cult's really about. They don't start right off the bat with the really bonkers stuff. They don't tell you about the mothership the moment that you walk through the door. They'll tell you about hacks for making you more productive that the cult can teach you, how you can be more centered, heal your trauma, make you more positive and so on. But once you buy in and you get into that ecosystem, then you start to move up the ranks within their internal hierarchy. And then you start getting told things that you didn't hear at the beginning, like the cult leader is a messiah, or we're all descended from alien spirits, or what have you. That's when they start to get the weird stuff. They tell you to let go of your relationship and so on. Move up more and find out that you're supposed to share your spouse with the rest of the cult. It gets weirder the higher you go. We're all preparing right now for our departure to another galaxy. Here, have some Kool-Aid. It escalates. That's how they go. That's how they do. And the longer these cults go, the more permissive they get within the cult, the more corrupt, the more debauched, the more depraved they get. Well, again, that's the West. That's America. Honestly, if you look at it that way, you can't unsee it. They're trying to deprogram your fitrah, and it is escalating. And just like in many cults, they focus on women. They focus on brainwashing and indoctrinating and corrupting women through all sorts of moral inversion. They teach that everything that's moral is immoral, that there's shame in dignity and dignity in shame. It's inversion. Modesty and chastity are oppression. Exploitation and objectification are liberatory. This is a cult deprogramming your fitrah, deprogramming your nature. And it's escalating. One of the arguments, they're content, they're comfortable, They drank the Kool-Aid and they like the Kool-Aid. So who are you to call them brainwashed and enslaved? But see, it's all about framing and prioritization. So like the West, Western liberalism, America, etc., they deprioritize and they negate every metric of well-being besides so-called freedom, right? Nothing matters more than freedom. That's the official doctrine. So as long as cult members feel that they have this freedom, then nothing else is important. And they can't even articulate any dissatisfaction that they might feel, It's just like someone who has bought into the internal logic of a cult. That's Americans. No matter how objectively horrible, no matter how objectively abnormal things are, then you can rationalize yourself with doctrine that makes it all make sense to you. You wake up every day in America already in debt. Before your eyes even open, you owe on your house, you owe on your car, you owe on your education, you owe for your health. Your whole life is chained to subscription services. Debt slavery, wage slavery, subscription slavery. You know, your whole existence is leased. It's on loan from the moment you're born. From the moment you're born, you are plugged into a system that feeds on you financially, psychologically, spiritually, and you're told that all of that is freedom. You're told it's the best thing that ever happened to humanity. It's the best system there is. And you should be grateful. You should be proud. Tell me that isn't cult-like. You live in a bubble of euphemisms. You work like a slave. You sell your time, which is what your life is, by the way. It's time. Your presence in this world is nothing but time. And actually, you don't even sell it, because selling it would imply that you have a choice, but you don't have a choice to sell your time. Do you understand? You have to. That's what I mean. You're literally born in debt. Because from the moment that you enter the world, if you live in the West, if you live in America, well, you have to start justifying your existence within the prevailing profit model. You know, whatever intrinsic value that you have as a human being, whatever purpose you might have in this life, is subordinated by necessity to a job that you don't care about for people who you don't even know, in a company that would replace you tomorrow with a machine or with AI or with a robot if they could. Your dignity is tied to your productivity. And if you don't produce, you don't deserve to eat. If you don't produce, you don't deserve shelter. You don't deserve peace. You're only worth whatever you can generate monetarily for someone else. So you cope. You consume, you scroll, you eat, you buy things that you don't need on credit to reward yourself with the cold comfort of frivolous goods. You know, reward yourself for all the hard work that you're doing, only to keep the cycle going. You bury yourself in entertainment that makes you feel a little bit less numb for just a few hours. Imagine, the only way that you can feel anything similar to being alive is to watch fiction. But you think that's normal because that's what everyone in the cult does. You live alone with little to no human interaction, no human connection. You walk through crowds like a ghost. Your family, most likely, is scattered, is broken, is estranged, again, just like a cult. You know, these are fundamental things that cults do. They break all your relationships. They alienate you from your family. You know, even your friends, most likely, are just avatars on the screen. Curated versions of people pretending to not be as miserable as you are, you know, with their Instagrammable perfect lives that no one's actually living. No one lives like that. That's called lateral reinforcement of cult dogma. Your body is malnourished but overstimulated. You're chemically altered from morning to night, coffee to wake up, pills to concentrate, sugar to cope and make you feel better, weed to make you relax, porn to escape, and then melatonin to fall asleep. You don't even know what it feels like to be natural anymore, to live naturally without chemical augmentation. You don't remember what it's even like to be human, because this is the only version of a human that the cult defines as human. The cult brands approved addiction as self-care, you know, dysfunction as beautiful. This is a cult. Sex isn't sacred anymore. It's not even intimate. It's a commodity. It's a performance. It's a sport. You know, you're taught that your body is your sole value. Desirability is your whole identity, especially if you're a woman. You're trained to be attractive, not decent, to be desired, not loved. In the West, you treat people, relationships, like consumables, and then you wonder why you feel disposable, why you are disposable. Because cults always flatten people to pure function. You can't have anything personal, anything intimate, anything private. And you know, every cult almost eventually becomes a sex cult. I mean, the People's Temple, the Branch Davidians, the Children of God, Nexium, obviously. They almost always go this way. Cults almost always go this way. That's why I said you have to pay attention to what Western popular culture is doing to women. You have to pay attention to that. Because cult governance depends on dissolving personal borders. And sexual access is the crowning test of loyalty. Because that violates the most intimate frontier between people. I mean, look at your culture, so-called. Honestly, you need to just remove the last 3 letters of that word. It's not a culture, it's a cult. I mean, if you look at how cults do, you'll start with platitudes about free love and whatnot. Well, as a society, you've already gone through that phase in the 1960s. And of course, then that free love idea promotes suspending judgment on all forms of sexuality and promiscuity, normalizing all sorts of behaviors. And then it moves on to sexual healing within the cult. I mean, that concept, sexual healing, was already established in the public mind through song. And then that concept, that further normalizes all sorts of practices, even truly perverted and dark practices. It promotes that as therapeutic, living out your wildest, darkest fantasies without ever actually addressing the sick thing inside you that makes you even have those fantasies. That's never addressed. It's just, well, the idea is it's better for you to do this consensually with someone rather than to force yourself on someone. Force someone else to do this dark fantasy that you have by force. And that's framed as healthy. Think that through. The culture, the cult, does not help you purge yourself of toxic urges. It provides you pathways for acting on them. Because as far as the cult is concerned, all those toxic urges that you have are just levers for creating dependency, levers for creating addiction. And then the way cults normally go, traditionally, they start to move basically into turning cult members into sexual slaves for those at the top of the cult hierarchy, with all the members vying for their favor. And I mean, that's all across your social media. Highest bidder access, women objectifying themselves, women sexualizing themselves for sponsorship. And again, that's lateral indoctrination reinforcement between women. In this case, normalizing degradation, sexualization, objectification, pornification, the flattening of women to their function inside the cult. That's your culture. That's all across social media. And like I've talked about before, women and girls are made immeasurably more neurotic, more depressed, more anxious, more insecure, all because of social media. But within the accepted logic of the cult, you can't say that. So you just post a picture of yourself at the gym and wait for the cult to approve you. And of course, in terms of this, the culture has made all the men eunuchs, just like the eunuchs who used to guard the harems. You get to see everything, but only on your phone screen, only on your laptop screen, your computer, porn, OnlyFans, whatever. You're eunuchs. Your men are eunuchs. And all of you people who talk about high-value men and alpha males and so on, that's your lateral reinforcement of the hierarchy. That's your lateral reinforcement of cult logic that you've absorbed. You've accepted that what the cult tells you should want is correct, because that's what the elites have. And you've accepted that also that only the elites can have it. Never mind that the it that we're talking about here is a plastic, soulless sex slave. It's moral inversion. And the elite of a cult are always the most degenerate. So look at the elite of your society. Well, these are the ones who built your system. They're the ones who programmed your cult. And they are undeniably the most depraved, the most immoral, the most degenerate people that you can even imagine. Like, just for me, I can tell you, from my generation, basically all the music and all the movies that we grew up on, all of that was produced by truly demonic perverts. Tell me that isn't programming. You think they're giving us anything good to listen to, anything good to watch that's going to help our brains? No, it's all for programming purposes. And it will reflect the ideology of that cult. And again, just like in a cult, conformity is relentlessly enforced. You memorize scripts and you recite those scripts just like dogma. Not because you necessarily believe in them or even understand them, but because they are the scripts of the cult. Right or left, liberal or conservative, whatever the case may be. The cult has relieved you of having to think, You're only allowed to think that you are choosing within that totalistic cult compound of America that shrinks the menu of available decisions until obedience feels self-chosen. I mean, your streets are violent. Your cities are broken. Your police are militarized. Your children are medicated. Your schools are a battleground. Your politicians are circus acts. You're absolutely ruled by corporate landlords. You're entertained by corporate propaganda. You're educated by corporate institutions. And you're treated at a very high cost by corporate pharmaceuticals. You're captured in every which way. In every direction you're captured, but still you think that you're free. That's a cult. When the reality is that if you get sick, you go bankrupt. If you get educated, you go bankrupt. If you get married, you go bankrupt. And they tell you this is all the American dream. It's not a dream. It's a drug. It's a simulation. You're living a ritual of slow death that's funded by your own labor. But that's all fine. It's all normal. It's all good inside the cult. But no objective, non-brainwashed outsider can look at any of this as normal or okay or fine or good. It's an abomination. It's sick. And the more you tell yourself that you are free, that you are comfortable, that you have democracy and rights and so on, the more you say that, the more you talk like that, the more brainwashed you sound. Your cult tells you that everyone outside of the cult is lost. Everyone outside of the cult is miserable and suffering and so on. They claim that their so-called liberalism is deprogramming you from, say, oppressive traditions, age-old customs, age-old understanding, and that the cult has higher and more evolved, and that they're more enlightened than anyone else. When this is objectively false. They're making you worse by the day. They're normalizing worse and worse things by the day. They're deprogramming your humanity day in, day out. But because they call all of this freedom and they call all of this progress, you are left with no way to articulate your ever worsening existential crisis because you're stuck in the cult lexicon. Listen, I'm not even joking about this. Think about this. There's a sort of window. Bear with me. There's a sort of window of neuroplasticity immediately after a traumatic event. You know, trauma can shatter an individual's internal narrative to understand the world. It causes dissociation, disorientation, and so on. Basically a breakdown of meaning. During this post-trauma phase, their brain can easily become open to new interpretations of reality to help them regain some kind of coherence. It almost mirrors early childhood development. And this is when and how and why a lot of people who get involved in cults do so after suffering some kind of trauma, or maybe as a result of ongoing trauma. And the cult gives them a way to process that. Of course, not a therapeutic way to process that, but a manipulative way: gaslighting, trauma bonding, cult indoctrination. You know, cults and extremist groups seize on that moment of neuroplasticity, that vulnerability, that broken psyche, that's struggling to find some kind of a framework that can help them reinterpret whatever that person has experienced, whatever negative thing that person has experienced, help them to reinterpret that in a way that removes the negative emotions that they have around it, or that channels those negative emotions into supposedly some sort of positive cult-related activity, okay? This is established, this is factual, this is neuroscience and psychology. Well, the West, especially America, it's a trauma factory. If you traumatize them just right, you can make them rebuild their whole identity around any ideology or any framework that you give them. And that society, America, is built to traumatize you. Okay, not always dramatically, but always constantly. There is real, serious trauma as a result of crime, you know, literal fear and insecurity, especially in the urban places, trauma of predation. But they keep you also in a low-grade crisis at all times. You know, your job isn't secure, your housing isn't secure or stable, your relationships are fragile, you have no support structure. Not to mention that you have the government constantly telling you to be afraid of this boogeyman or that boogeyman. You're overstimulated, you're overworked, you're undernourished. The trauma that they inflicted on you, do you understand? They're giving you some sort of a positive spin on the psychological, mental, and emotional problems that they afflicted you with to make you escape into the safety of the cult compound. You're traumatized by the system and then indoctrinated by that same system to interpret the trauma that they caused as proof of the system's necessity. It's a perfect feedback loop. They wound you, and then they sell you a script that tells you that the wound that you have is actually proof that you're healed. They don't just seize upon your trauma, they cultivate your trauma, because trauma makes your brain plastic. It makes your identity malleable, it makes you pliable, it makes you suggestible. And when people are emotionally disoriented, they become desperate for certainty, desperate for security, desperate for meaning. So the West keeps you in that state. They keep you vulnerable enough to doubt your instincts, broken enough to beg for meaning, but still functional enough to work, to buy and to laterally reinforce the programming. And in that state, your fitrah, your God-given compass, is overwritten. See, you were actually born with your fitrah. You were born with the truth inside you, your nature, but they force you to interpret the suffering that they inflict on you through the lens of your victimizer, until you're grateful for the pain, until you'll defend the one who's attacking you, until you'll call the prison that you live in a sanctuary, until you call poison a cure. That's how cults work, and that's how liberalism works. It's not liberation. It's only liberating you from recognizing that you need to be liberated. That's the only liberation you get from liberalism. It's making you applaud and it's making you cheer for your own trauma, because they told you that your trauma means that you're free. And until you see that, until you recognize the manipulation that you're subject to morning, noon, and night, you're going to keep turning to that same ideology, the same ideology that has destroyed you. You know, asking that ideology to explain what it did. And it will explain it. It will explain it beautifully to you. It will rebrand your collapse as self-discovery, and then it will commodify it. Your utter degradation as a human being, the inversion of your decency, the inversion of your dignity, your morality, these are all monetizable. You can sell tickets to your own ruin, live stream your own rot, and the cult will celebrate you for it, and you'll thank them for it, and you'll defend it, and you'll call it liberty. But it's not freedom. It's trauma-induced loyalty and obedience. It's spiritual Stockholm syndrome. And the first step out is to try to remember your fitrah and start asking, what is it about your fitrah that they're trying so hard to erase? Because this isn't life. This is erosion. I know you feel it. No matter how much dopamine you get, I still know that you feel it. You know that you're not thriving. You know that you're decaying. And the tragedy is that they made you think it's normal. They made you think that this is all there is that's out there. You were born into that machine that feeds on misery. You were born into it. Now you're its product and you're its fuel. You were born into a cult, but you don't have to stay in the cult. And unless you get out, and I mean get out, I don't mean get out of the country, I mean get out of the programming. Unless you get out, that machine, that cult will grind you down and live stream your funeral and sell your children.